Happy New Year, everyone. We have released another song, so that's a hopeful thing. And I thought it was kind of appropriate that Shadow Warrior came out during the holidays, which can be kind of really wonderful for some people and like light and airy and breezy, and then not so much for others.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, the holidays is weird, and I think especially for this time, even before the pandemic, the holidays bring out some weird things in people, and there's a lot of stuff that we have to face within ourselves, and then within our families, within our friends. The days are so short, right?
Yeah.
December 21st being the shortest day of the year. So Shadow Warriors was a really cool song, but just, I don't know, there's like so much like interesting tension in this tune,
Yeah.
Like how did you write this? Like what was the inspiration for you with this?
Well, so I started writing this shortly after the original shutdown happened. So that happened at the beginning. The shutdown was at the beginning of March, and I think I started writing this middle to end of March.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
There was some pretty intense emotions that I was feeling at the time. It's interesting because I think this song has like a pretty stark juxtaposition, I think, in the vibe and feel of it between the first half of the song and the second half. And I definitely wrote the first half of the song first, and the first sound that I made was that bass sound that really starts the song.
Yeah.
And it's one of those sounds, especially when you're listening to it on headphones, it kind of like envelops you. I think there's like part of the song kind of feels like uneasy.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Like it has a beauty to it, but it also certainly has like an edginess and an anxiety to even the music itself. And especially in the second half of the song, there's that one section that where Darren's basically bashing the cymbals, and you're doing like, I don't know if wailing is the right,
the ooze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember writing that part it was in my studio, and I was literally as I was playing it back, making the crash cymbal smashing. I was doing it more aggressively than that, but it was very cathartic. I was really feeling like everyone at the time, a lot of uncertainty and anxiety about the whole world shutting down. And for me, I think it was a way to maybe just like get some of those emotions out. And it was certainly a release.
Shadow Warrior for me kind of like started finding its place inside my mind, not only as like a figure that might potentially live outside of us and be like a physical entity that we have to deal with, but also physically that our own shadow, and how are we dealing with our own darkness, or even our own misunderstanding of who we are or who we've been or who we want to be. And I guess that's why this like nighttime thing keeps popping up for me, because I feel like that's when we face those things the most.
Sure.
And we can be really tough on ourselves.
Writing music has been a way to like feel better.
Yeah.
To feel much better.
And why do you think that is? Like, what is that thing that happens?
It gives me a sense of purpose. I mean, I really do feel strongly that my purpose here is on Earth is to inspire people. And the tool that the gift that I was given was music and being able to write music. And so when I am feeling especially kind of astray or like I've lost my sense of purpose, it's a way for me to kind of come back and feel that purpose again. And
right. Which kind of brings us back to what we talked about right in the beginning. It's like hope, right? So that's really kind of a form of hope for you.
Mhm.
And I think that's something in our lifetimes, all of us have to find, so it's awesome that, you found it. And I believe I found it myself as well. For the most part, it doesn't take away life and all the tough things, but how do people find that for themselves? If I know people that don't necessarily feel that they have a passion,
Sure.
but that doesn't mean that you know there isn't a tool or an outlet for all individuals. And even listening, I mean, I think we talked about this in one of the other interviews we did, but listening to music, was a sense of therapy and was a sense of hope, because you didn't feel alone, right? That somebody else you could relate to somebody else, and somebody else feels similarly to the way that you do. And that right there also opens this door of hope, because
Yeah, right. I mean, I think also music can help you to feel a sense of community.
mm-hmm.
So, if you really enjoy certain music and there's other people that also enjoy the same music, it's a shared experience or that you have that can connect you to other people.
Yeah, for sure. That there is this, it's interesting to release music and not have that that sort of, push and pull of being able to perform it to an
Yeah, there's
audience.
a different kind of experience that you get connecting with people when you play music live for them and they're
Mhm.
physically in the same space. I haven't done any of the live stream performing. I know that became a bigger thing, during the shutdown and since then.
Yeah.
But even, even watching performances of music on a video screen, I've seen like bands that I like, they have concerts that they've video recorded and I've watched it back on a nice sound system and a nice video system.
Mhm.
But for me, I mean, I've always loved live music so much. And there's like a lack of three-dimensionality almost.
Yeah.
And a lack of, being in the same space with other people that are experiencing that music and that performance at the same time. I just don't think that there's a
I
digital.
wonder what it's doing to us as people,
You
like,
mean,
we've already been such a disconnected society, or starting to become a very disconnected society because of things like the internet. And
Mhm.
there just hasn't been as much of a need, because there was other ways for us to connect and sort of feel like we were
Sure.
connected even though we weren't. And now with this pandemic, it's really pushed the envelope here.
I've been
um,
thinking a lot about, there's been a lot about augmented reality and the metaverse
okay.
in the news. The last few months as like Facebook changed their name to Meta and they announced their focus on developing this metaverse. But like I think about that in terms of like music, and I just don't see it. I don't see how augmented reality, like you could theoretically put on goggles and then be in a live music space. It's virtual reality, right?
Right.
And so you could, I guess maybe they already have this technology and they're already doing this, but like you basically can attend your favorite band's concert by putting on goggles and then basically attending it in virtual reality. Something about being present with other people in the same physical space at the same time, experiencing the same thing.
I agree with you 100%. I think we come from a certain time too where that's, it just seems odd to do it any other way. I will tell you though that through this pandemic, having accessibility through screens, like being able to have Zoom calls with friends and connect that way, was a lifesaver. But that's
Sure.
because we didn't have another option, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is it gonna come down to sort of vinyl versus CD, right?
But live shows versus
Versus Zoom show or
watching.
whatever. Yeah.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to whether there's continued demand for.
Yeah. And there always will. I mean, we need community. We need to be around people. There is, you know, I'm not a very religious person per se, but there is this belief that, you know, the reason that churches exist, for example, or large congregations, is that when people do it together, the energy is that much bigger, and that's why they do it, because they want to call that energy, right?
I mean, you've been to large music festivals. I've never really, I don't think there's much distinction, honestly, between a church or a big religious gathering and a music festival.
And a music festival, agreed.
And the similarities are, I mean, there's a reason that music typically plays a huge role in religious gatherings.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's like a portal. It's like a, yeah. Well, and this is, I mean, again, this is kind of why I bring it up, is because, you know, we could talk about the songs, and even and being able to listen to them online is amazing, and I feel really proud of the work and the way it sounds, and I love playing it in my car, and you know, my son loves it, and great. You know, when we write music or we create any kind of art, there's also this transcendence that happens in the creation process that can't be recreated unless it's in a setting like a live performance of it, right? To be able to feel that you know, sort of secondary creation with an audience is something that I'm excited about, for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is the longest amount of time that I've gone without playing a live show since I was in college.
Yeah.
It's I definitely miss it. And I'm very much looking forward to whenever it is that we get to play in front of an audience again.
Well, here's to everyone playing their part, you know. I mean, the reality is that we have to be smart, and we have to listen to science, and we have to do our part to make sure that that we can get back out there, and that this massive pandemic becomes something that we will deal with for the rest of our lives, but it's not going to dictate, you know, how we live our lives forever. So, yeah. Here's to live shows.
Yep, indeed.